So there is a humongous game in Spain this weekend. You may know it as El Clasico. It is, of course, perhaps the biggest rivalry in all of European football when Barcelona and Real Madrid lock horns. And anyone who listened to the show a couple of weeks ago will know that we discussed the prospect of the title being decided in that fixture. And so it's come to be. So we had to get our good friend Ivan Fuente from the Spanish team back on the show to discuss maybe not the game itself, Ivan, but Barcelona's coming title. They obviously could have won it the weekend there. They didn't because of results. Even if they don't go on and beat Real Madrid this weekend, it's more or less inevitable. We spoke about Real Madrid last time we had you on the show, so it only makes sense that we speak about Barcelona. So before we jump straight into, some of the interesting players, what have you made of Barcelona this season? This is Hansi Flick's second consecutive league title. I was checking actually that he's now won 4 league titles in a row from Bayern Munich to Barcelona, which is truly incredible. He's never lost a league title race actually as a manager. So have you made of Flick and how have you made of Barcelona this season? And hello, how are you?
Hi, Stefan. Nice to be here again. And it's Barcelona is gonna win La Liga this season for sure. They only need 1 point more. And maybe not in the Clasico, but the next week probably he will get the title. I think they deserve the title because they've been the best team in the Spanish football this season. Also the last season, but this season I think Flick tried to push the team on a highest level, and for a while they did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I asked you to come on the show, I did ask you to put together 4 players who have embodied or perhaps characterized this Barcelona potential or future title win. And we want to go through them on the show, obviously, to discuss them. And the first one is a player who I think a lot of people maybe outside of Spain maybe won't know of, and that is, of course, Juan Garcia, the goalkeeper. They signed him from Espanyol for 25 million euros. His market value has increased from 15 million euros to 40 million, increased by 15 million euros, I beg your pardon, to 40 million euros. And he's now the second most valuable goalkeeper in the world. So a goalkeeper who's come from a smaller club in Spain and based on his market value, Ivan, has seemingly done very well at Barcelona this season.
Yeah, it's a really good goalkeeper. Just to describe him a little bit, he's really tall. It's almost 2 meters. I don't have the exact number now, but he's really tall, and he's good with his feet. He knows how to pass the ball, which is really important for Barcelona. Maybe he's not like Neuer or Marc-André ter Stegen, but he's really good. And also, he's a proper goalkeeper, let's say. Here in Spain, we say the goalkeeper has to first the first thing a goalkeeper has to do is keep his a clean sheet and then play the ball. But he does. He's a proper goalkeeper. He has a really good numbers. I think he has 14 or 15 clean sheet in La Liga now. So he's the one with more clean sheet. Yeah, it's the proper. I think Barcelona has found a proper keeper for a long time because he's 25, I think.
Yeah, because obviously for the longest time, Barcelona had issues with goalkeepers. They obviously had Peña, they had Ter Stegen, Szczesny, they also brought in from loan. If I'm not mistaken, he came out of retirement, I think, to join Barcelona, or, maybe from a small... Yeah, so obviously you could maybe say it was something that was overlooked when the squad was being built in terms of the importance. And so do you think Garcia has come in and he's fixed a hole in that team that has been there for a number of years?
Yeah, because in a team like Barcelona, the keeper needs to save these balls like no one expect to be saved. I don't know if I explain myself. It's not just just save the easy one. No, you need to be focused during the 90 minutes because Barcelona is gonna attack and it's gonna leave a lot of space in the back. So you need to be focused and save those difficult ones. And I think Joan Garcia is a clearly a keeper that can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. The next name on the list is Fermin Lopez, who most people will probably know if they have some sort of interest in Spanish football. An academy player who's came through the ranks at Barcelona. His market value has increased by 50 million euros to 100 million euros. So his market value has essentially doubled this season, which is incredible. He's now the third most valuable Spanish player in the world. He's the fifth most valuable attacking midfielder in the world, Ivan. Maybe for people who don't follow Spanish football, maybe they only see Barcelona 2 or 3 times in the Champions League every season. What kind of player is Lopez, and how impressive has he been this season for Barcelona?
Well, he's a player, like, he's really talented, but is this kind of player that you want to have in your team because he's talented, obviously, but he works a lot. He's always run and run and run and run, never give up. Also, there is a fact that after he was in La Masia, and then he moves to Linares, which is a team in the third division or fourth, I'm not sure now. But at that time, he was always working a lot, always focus on the games, doing a really good job. And a player had who played with him say that he at that time he already knows that he will be in Barcelona team at in the future.
Yeah, so he's obviously a player who's been developing at Barcelona for a long time. Do you think that hard work he does on and off the ball compensates for other players or makes the players around him a bit better? So I guess you could maybe, I think last time we actually discussed Gavi, for example, on one of the first shows we did, and his market value fall and how he struggled for game time at Barcelona because of injury and things. Has Lopez replaced Gavi in that Barcelona midfield? Maybe not specifically the same position, but maybe that energy and, as we would say in English, that industry or the grit that he has in midfield.
Yeah, he has this I don't know, this soul of a warrior that always push, always keep running, annoying the other team, the player who had the ball. So yeah, I think he's this kind of player like Gavi.
How important do you think he'll be for Spain this summer at the World Cup?
I think he's gonna be a key player.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the next player on the list is also another Spanish player who will probably be playing alongside Lopez for Spain at the World Cup, and that's, of course, Pedri, who really needs no introduction. Most football fans know exactly who Pedri is, and his market value increased by 10 million euros this season. That may not seem like a lot, but it means his market value is now 150 million euros. He's the joint third most valuable player in La Liga. There's only 2 players worth more, and he's the second most valuable player in Spain. One of the most valuable players in the world, Ivan, maybe the most valuable midfielder, or certainly one of them. And it certainly feels like Pedri has got back to being the player that we knew he was maybe 1 or 2 years ago. He's this world-class player, and has he been the engine? Has he been the key player for Barcelona in that midfield this season?
Yeah, and the main change I think Pedri has done this season is related with his physical condition. In the past, he had a lot of problems with his injuries. This season, he had a couple of injuries as well, but you can see how he has development his physical condition. I don't know if he knows better his body for sure. Maybe he has changed something in his lifestyle or in the way he trained. Maybe the Flick and his staff control better the force Pedri does in the game. But I think he's now more consistent on the field because of that. He can do more efforts during the games without get injured.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the last player on the list, of course, is Lamine Yamal, who also needs no introduction. His market value hasn't changed this season, but he is, as many would suspect, our joint most valuable player in the world. I think it's Mbappe and Erling Haaland who are equal on market value with him. Ivan, we spoke about Mbappe on a recent show and discussed Lamine Yamal on a recent show and discussed what he has to do to maybe improve his market value above Mbappe and Haaland. And of course, unfortunately, he picked up a long-term injury, which has ruled him out for the rest of the season. Hopefully, he will be back for the World Cup for Spain. But prior to that injury, he looked as though he was maybe in the best form of his career, and he was ready to really kind of go on and win huge things for Spain and do lots of impressive things in 2026. What do you think has been the key behind his success for Barcelona this season? Do you think it's because he's just coming of age, or do you think there's something to do with the tactics or the management of Hansi Flick that is getting the best out of him?
I think he's growing. He's only 18 years old, and his career is just starting, I think. And obviously, with the year by year, he will reach hopefully a better level. And I think that happened this season. He's a better player than he was the last one. His numbers are better than it was, and I think he needs to keep improving in that point. He needs to score more goals, because he's this kind of player that when he's on the field, you can feel like something is gonna happen. He's a game changer, sorry, but he still needs to be a little bit better in a goals term, like score more goals per game. And if I have to say something about him, he has a problem, and the problem is that we still have fresh in our memories Messi and Cristiano, what he have done in the Spanish league, and he's always comparing. We are always comparing him with them, and it's not fair.
Yeah. So do you think he still lives under that shadow of Lionel Messi to an extent? Is there any way for him to get away from that? Because I guess any player, it's almost like Cruyff before Messi, maybe. There was always going to be that comparison. Is there any way for Lamine Yamal to get away from that, unless he was to somehow become better than Messi?
I don't think so. And if there is a way, I don't know what is. But it's like he's only 18 years old. He has scored, I don't know, maybe 20 goals or something in all the season, but we still want more, and it's not fair, I think.
Yeah, well, that's Barcelona for you, I suppose. If you want to play for Barcelona, you have to do what Barcelona want. But that's really interesting. And just finally, before I let you go, Ivan, the really interesting thing there is that all four of those players are relatively young. I know Garcia's maybe mid-20s, but for a goalkeeper, he's very young. I know Barcelona obviously have older players. They've got, Cancelo, Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski, but those four players strike me as being a very young spine for the team. So do you think going forward for the next 2, 3, 4 years, these are the four players who will be the stars for that Barcelona team going forward?
Yeah, maybe not to that level, that high level, but La Masia is, I don't know how to say that. It's like you always will find something useful there.
Yeah, absolutely. But we look forward to seeing who they could come up with next. They always seem to have a conveyor belt of new players each and every season. And 3 of these players, at least, are exactly perfect examples of that. But thank you so much for joining us on the show this week, Ivan. And I'm sure Barcelona will enjoy their title celebrations when they come. There's some other big stories in Spain that we do want to discuss, but we're also waiting to see how they play out before the end of the season. Maybe towards the bottom of the table. There's a little hint as to maybe what we could discuss in next weeks. And of course, we'll speak to you, I'm sure, before the World Cup. But thank you once again for joining us on the show, Ivan.
Thanks. See you soon.